Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Cloud Launch and Learn session of today. So today we are going to speak about how you can explore Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc, and we'll have a great overview with Tom, our guest speaker here in the studio. Tom is actually joining us from Austria, and he's managing the team where they are helping with hybrid and data center infrastructure to the clients. So he has a story to tell us about how he was using the Azure Stack HCI and Arc, and what were the benefits to the customers, and how you can get started using them. Hey Tom, welcome.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Uh, Nice to meet you. So, is there anything you want to tell to our speakers, to our people and the audience who are joining us today?
Yes, I'm very happy to be here today, and I hope I will do my best to present the topic here. And maybe there are some questions. Feel free to put it in the chat, and yeah, I
And we
will
will get them
try to
answered.
answer it.
Yeah, cool, great. All right. Again, thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to, without any overdue, I will bring the, you know, um, presentation of Tom. And Tom, I'm disappearing. It's all yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to my session exploring Azure Stack HCI and Azure Arc overview and use cases. Um, my name is Thomas Bründel. I'm expert for hybrid cloud and data center, and my experience covers Azure and EVS, but my focus is clearly on Azure and of course on their hybrid products. You can find my contact information here, and if someone wants to contact me after the workshop, feel free. Please do it so. And finally, a little bit of self promotion. I run a blog where I report on topics that keep me busy. And if you want to follow me, you will find also my Twitter account and LinkedIn account listed here. And yeah, let's start. What will be the objectives of this workshop? Um, First, we want to get an overview of Azure in hybrid and multi-cloud scenarios, and so there is no way around having a look at Azure Arc and Azure Stack HCI. In addition, we want to gather some live demo experience on managing on-premise resources in Azure. And last but not least, I want to increase the comfort level when using hybrid Azure services, and I want to take the shyness from using them. To enter the topic, let me briefly explain why we need new ways to manage IT infrastructures. If you look at today's environments, you see that the complexity and the distribution of infrastructure components have increased massively. Applications run across data centers, hosting environments, branch offices, and multi clouds. On top of this complexity, different development tools, languages, and frameworks are used for application development and for the operation from this application. And also, new approaches are used like Kubernetes and DevOps. At this point, the following questions comes up: how to monitor and govern and secure resources seamlessly, regardless where they are, and how to modernize local data centers and legacy applications using new cloud technologies. And that's the moment where Azure Arc comes in. Azure Arc needs to be understood as a central orchestration platform that extends the so-called Azure control plane and brings it everywhere, which means also on on-premise locations, edge locations, and public cloud environments. As a result, you gain centralized visibility for security and governance, and you are also able to bring familiar tools like GitHub to Azure, and you can also use Azure Pass services in your own environment. Uh, Building upon the just presented foundation, there are different key features and services that Azure Arc currently offers. These are the Arc-enabled application service, the Arc-enabled data service, and the Arc-enabled servers and Kubernetes. And of course, more are constantly added, and existing ones are improved. But that's the whole set at the moment, and I will focus on them and on the next slides. So now the question comes up: which resources can be managed in detail with Azure Arc, and which benefits do you get from it? First, there are the Azure Arc enabled servers. This means Windows servers and Linux servers, such as um, uh, with operating systems such as SUSE, Red Hat, um, and they all can be collected and grouped in Azure over an agent. And subsequently, they can also be monitored and kept up to date. And you can also apply policies via Azure policies to to enforce your governance and your security practice. And there are also Azure Arc enabled SQL servers available. They um, can leverage additional benefits to the Azure Arc enabled server benefits. For example, it's possible to implement a comprehensive monitoring via Azure Security, also known under a new name, Windows Defender for Cloud. And in terms of performance, you can get a proactive SQL assessment, which helps you to get your database in an optimal setting. Yeah. And last but not least, you have the Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes. But I will go into this in more detail later. It's not time to jump in a live demo. At this point, I would like to provide some insights about the Azure Arc portal. Um, I have to look for Azure Arc under the Azure Services, and you can find it. Can't find it. You can search over the search bar there, and there you will find Azure Arc. And a good point to start is the overview page. There, the first point is the try arc box. This you can understand this as a template collection, and if you want to explore Azure Arc use cases, this is a good point to start. If you scroll down, you see all resources that are created with this solution. This is a template solution, and you see, okay, it will cost you 112 euros US dollars per day. But you will get a lot of services and have a great starting point um, uh, to explore all the technologies and possibilities here. And then you have also the ArcBox for IT pros. This is a smaller set of resources, and you won't find things like Azure Stack HCI here. You won't find Kubernetes here. It's uh, it's more a traditional set of resources. Okay, so let's go back, and now I will show you how you can onboard your on-prem infrastructure. You can start here with the second option, and then you see, okay, what are the infrastructure resources that are available to be used here. For example, you can onboard one server or multiple server. You can onboard a Kubernetes cluster, and you can onboard your SQL servers. And if you have an Azure Resource Bridge in place, that's an appliance based on Kubernetes. Um, that means you have to deploy it before you can can start using it in Azure. But after the deployment, you are able to um, um, start and create VMs directly through the Azure portal. And this is a great benefit because you can centralize your whole management with a platform you are used to. And then you have also the possibility to connect platform solutions like VMware and System Center and also Azure Stack HCI. But I will show you more detail on Azure Stack HCI later on. And let's get back. Now I will show you the services you can deploy here. And these are all PaaS services, also based on Kubernetes, and you will can get data service and application services, and the data service are at the moment limited to SQL and Postgres SQL, but there are more in the pipeline, and Microsoft are going to release them. And then you have also the Arc enabled application services, um, web apps, for example, to host your web applications, and you can use logic apps. It's a low code environment, and you can also use Azure Functions if you are, for example, a PowerShell guy. You can write your scripts and execute it serverless via Azure. And in this scenario, you will deploy these applications on top of Kubernetes, and so it doesn't matter where this Kubernetes cluster is hosted. So maybe the platform for this Kubernetes cluster is Azure Stack HCI or any other Kubernetes cluster that is compatible. Yes, then I will show you uh, some insights. for this I have to change to a different environment. There I have a lot of servers onboarded. For example, I will take this one, and this is a Azure Arc enabled server, and I will show you which possibilities you have here. Um, for example, you can um, uh, apply policies. I have already applied one on this server. This server is on my on-prem side, so I have created an, an an policy which tells the on-prem server, please install the log analytics agent, also called MMA, and the policy checks if this is already done, and if it's not already done, um, there is also a remediation task, and the agent will be installed automatically. And after that, you will gain some more possibilities, because the MMA agent is needed for other solutions I will show you now. For example, if you want to have an really deep insight of your VM, you can activate insights, and then you will get, for example, here a very good performance statistic. How much space is available, what is the CPU utilization, how much memory is available, and how many IAPs are currently occurring here, and so on. And one of my favorite features is this map, because it gives you um, a clear overview which services are running there, and which ports they are using, and uh, how many clients, for example, are connected to this machine, and yeah. Then you have also the possibility to manage your updates here direct over the Azure portal. I run an assessment check some minutes ago, and as you can see, there are some updates that have to be installed. You can schedule updates here, you can make a one-time update, and everything from one central point. And there are also features regarding the inventory. Um, in this place, you see all the software that is installed. You can get an overview of all the services that are running, and this makes it possible to create, for example, Azure alerts to monitor your service status if you have some critical services running here. And as I have already mentioned, it's also possible to onboard your SQL server to Azure Arc, and that's something I will also show you here now. I have to go back to the Arc portal, and there is a point SQL servers. And as you can see, I have two databases connected here, and you can check the environment health, and this will give you a report, and the report will look like this. And in my point of view, this is a really great feature, because I know from my own working experience that you have put a lot of money in such an assessment, and here you can get it free of for free. Yes, that's for the demo at this point, and we'll go on in the presentation now. Are there some questions in the background? In the meantime,
Yeah, hi, Tom. I'm actually looking into the chat. So far, it's going good. No question. Go ahead.
oh, okay.
Hmm.
So let's take a look at the benefits of using Kubernetes with Azure Arc to manage a modern cloud native application. You get a platform where you can centrally roll out your applications everywhere, since all resources are gathered in Azure Arc. You can use familiar tools like GitHub and Azure DevOps and connect them to your Azure Arc environment, and don't have to learn new tools. So you are able to uh, deploy new versions of your application from a central point. Um, and in most cases, GitHub is involved in such scenarios. And as before, with the Azure Arc enabled servers, you get a platform that monitor the security of your environment, which brings us back to Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And I have already mentioned these services in my demo, and um, these are the services that you are able to um, provide with Azure Arc and Kubernetes. And the first services I want to introduce here are the data services. I have already mentioned them, Postgres SQL and MS SQL. And one of the big advantages of getting databases as a service is that they are always up to date, and you don't have to manage them yourself, and you don't have to think about topics like licensing and so on. And they are much more elastic, because you have the possibility to get one or more SQL container, for example, if the workload needs them. And if you have a traditional SQL server, um, it's not so easy to scale so dynamically. And then we have the application services, consisting of the Azure App Service for the web hosting, and the Azure Functions, and the Logic app, and one application service I don't have mentioned so far is the machine learning part of it. Um, you are able to host your processing engine on Kubernetes, so you don't have to start up a processing engine to analyze and proceed machine learning processes in the cloud. And this could be a big advantage if your compliance needs this, or you have governmental requirements you have to fulfill, um, like the GDPR, and you are not allowed to put your data in a different country, and yeah, something like this. Now that we have a rough overview of Azure Arc and that what we can do with it, I would like to introduce the hardware designed specially for it. This comes in the form of the Azure Stack family, which I would like to outline briefly now. And here we have the Azure Stack Edge, the Azure Stack HCI, and the Azure Stack Hub. And for each member in the family, there is also an individual use case available. Um, to start with the smallest one on the right side, the Azure Stack Edge is for scenarios where on-site computing power is needed, but data center hardware would not pay off. So, um, for example, if you have a mining location and you need real-time data, then Azure Stack Edge would be a good fit. And on the other side, we have Azure Stack HCI, and it's ideal for if you need a data center refresh and if you need to modernize your current hardware. Both solutions require a connection to the internet and to Azure. So we have a so-called connected scenario here. And last but not least, we have the Azure Stack Hub, and this is a solution for a disconnected scenario where large computing power is needed. A use case, for example, could be an aircraft carrier or in Formula One, where you have always your own cloud with you and may not always connection to the internet is available. However, I will focus on Azure Stack HCI in the following. Before we take a closer look at Azure Stack HCI, we first need to understand what HCI means, or what hyperconverged infrastructure means. And the easiest way to explain this is to do it via a simple figure. On the left side, we have a classic three-tier infrastructure consisting of the components listed here. I think you are you know these components, Ethernet switches, MISC appliance like um, um, telephone systems, hypervisors for computing resources, a storage fabric, the network for the storage, and the storage SAN, the storage itself. And on the right side, we have the hyperconverged version. And the difference now between both sides is that the hyperconverged infrastructure have all components pulled together as far as possible, and everything is managed via a single platform. So I don't have a storage specialist using a specific storage software. I don't have a network specialist using a specific network software. It's all manageable over a central place. And at this moment, it is already clear that this is a great advantage, like that there are many advantages from this setup, like less space requirement, less power consumption. You need less personnel, and there are many other advantages that could be mentioned here. Um, yeah. What do we find now under the hood of an Azure Stack HCI solution? This illustration has to be read from bottom to the top, and so we have to start at the hardware. Consequently, only verified hardware from OEM partner like HP, Dell, or similar can be used. Indeed, from a hardware perspective, the entire solution can come from a single partner and is then labeled as an integrated system. This means the hardware components are um, um, composed with the OEM partner and Microsoft together to gain the best setup for the Azure Stack HCI operating system. And this is also the next layer in this figure. Um, Azure Stack HCI OS, the operating system. It's mm, to simplify it. It's uh, a small Windows Server Core operating system without components and and roles that not are explicitly needed for this solution. And there are three key technologies that are um, improved implemented in this operating system. This is Hyper-V, storage spaces direct, and software-defined networking. Hyper-V for the virtualization layer. Storage spaces direct is the software-defined storage solution from Microsoft, and SDN is as it says, it's the technology you use to provide a virtual network layer. And on top of these technologies, and on top of this operating system, you can provide and deploy classic better say traditional workloads like Windows Server VMs, Linux VMs, and you can also deploy container workloads on the basis of AKS, Azure Stack Kubernetes Service. And all this is managed over the Windows Admin Center. It's a new platform from Microsoft introduced, and you can compare it with the server manager, but it's a web-based solution. And so it's accessible from the whole company if you are in the same network. And then you have the possibility to connect this whole stack to Azure and to Azure Arc, and then you are able to consume the Azure services like Azure Backup, Azure Monitoring, Azure Site Recovery, all hybrid services that are available in Azure. Sorry. Um, Here once again summarized what you can now achieve with all the presented stuff here and how it will work together. We have Azure Arc to manage and run cloud native apps and Azure service in and you have also a modern hardware informed from Azure Stack HCI to bring the cloud to your on-premise location. Um, it's worth mentioning that with this solution, Microsoft is the only provider that delivers a complete story across all layers, including infrastructure, the management interface, and the services that can be leveraged, and this across all sites. So it's time for a second demo, and I will show you again the portal. I will have a look on the Azure Stack HCI point here. As you can see, I have deployed a single node cluster based on an HPE system. This with the latest version of Azure Stack HCI, you will always be onboarded on Azure Arc automatically. And let's gain some more insight now. Um, this cluster is already onboarded in the logs, so there are uh, uh, um, there are always some logs you have to gather and to interpret. If you look for workbooks, oh, okay, I have to go for monitoring because there is the workbook for Azure Stack HCI. This has switched. So you can have a look on the health of your server. Hmm. Don't know what is not working here at the moment. Okay, I'm sorry. There is some error. So I will show you how to manage the server, the Azure Stack HCI server from the Windows Admin Center. Um, Windows Admin Center is the new way to manage this. And if you want to deploy an Azure Stack HCI, you can start here, and by clicking Add, you are able to create a new cluster. But this needs some cluster hardware in place. And this hardware has to be, on top of this hardware has to be Azure Stack HCI OS installed. And after onboarding your cluster, you will gain this portal, and it's not so difficult. It's very near from the management interface, like the server cluster manager was, and the Hyper-V manager. And as you can see, we have 3 virtual machines running here. The cluster is in a healthy state, no problems here. And you can create new virtual machines over this portal. and there are 3 machines running at the moment. You can deploy a Kubernetes server on basis of an agent. And after deploying this Kubernetes server, you are able to consume, for example, the Azure Resource Bridge or the PaaS service I have mentioned in the presentation. Let me see if Azure Monitor is working from this place. Okay, that's the problem here. I have to fix this. Sorry for that. One more I wanted to tell you is that if you want to onboard your resources in Azure Arc, and if you want to create an Azure Stack HCI demo environment, um, it's always the same routine. For example, if you want to onboard an Azure Arc server, you will create a script, and the script can be deployed to some server in your on-premise infrastructure, and then it will show up in your Azure Arc portal. And if you want to deploy an Azure Stack HCI demo environment, there are also several ways available for this. You can use, for example, um, this guide I have created. Um, this is based on the a lab script provided from Microsoft, and then you can create more some virtual machines you can use for the deployment of Azure Stack HCI. And if you are interested, I will give you the link for this as well. And if you don't want to use your own machine for this purpose, you can also use Azure Arc Jumpstart scenarios. There is a template for HCI, and so you are able to deploy an HCI infrastructure directly in Azure, and you can use it like it would be on-prem. Yes, at this point, I'm at the end of the presentation. I hope you have found something interesting. If you have any further question, please feel free to ask and to contact me. Um, my contact informations are listed here, and I will answer your question as far and as fast as possible.
Sure. Thank you for demo and demonstration. I think there was something wrong with the query that was failing. Maybe that was the reason, but you can check it there. There's a question I want to bring, Tom. It came from John. So, question is the connection to Azure services over HTTPS or
It's
is
an
there a VPN?
HTTPS
It's a HTTPS, right?
connection.
Mm-hmm.
No VPN connection is needed for this to work. Um,
Okay. Great. So, and another thing is, so it says looks like server needs to be added, and let me look at this one. Insights running should allow it. So yeah, so when you are running, let's say, Azure Stack HCI, what are the troubleshooting tips? Let's say, something is failing, while you were experiencing with the managing the Azure Stack HCI using the Azure Arc. Is there any kind of troubleshooting tips or any suggestions or kind of from your experience you want to share with
one
people? Go
one
ahead.
thing you have to have in mind
Mm-hmm.
is regarding the Azure Resource Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to deploy the Azure Arc Resource Bridge, then you should have in mind that it's that you have to deploy AKS in front of, because both the Azure also the Azure Arc Resource Bridge is an AKS application, but if you deploy the Azure Arc Resource Bridge in front of AKS, the Azure Resource Bridge use a service that AKS is also using, and then you are not able to deploy AKS, and you will get in troubles.
Oh,
And so it's recommended to deploy AKS in front of the Azure Resource Bridge if you want to explore and test this functionality. And
yes, great.
yeah,
And in terms of like this, you mentioned Azure Arc Jumpstart, so I just put the link there for everybody, and I'm displaying it here. So, do you want to talk a little bit about Azure Arc Jumpstart, how it helped you, and a little bit more into how our users can get up to speed with Azure Arc Jumpstart and what benefits they can take out of it?
yeah, if you deploy a complete template from this website, you will gain a complete infrastructure. Maybe I can show again.
Sure.
Uh, at one moment.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, you get, for example, if you start with the arc box, you will get a whole infrastructure with all the possibilities and resources that are able to be arc enabled. And on top of these resources, you can um, you get all the services also activated. You are able to use in this scenario. For example, um, all your machines will be onboarded in Azure Monitor. You will have some policies like I have showed up in my demo. Um, all the resources will be automatically onboarded in the Log Analytics workspace, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud will be activated, and will give you recommendations how to improve your security. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all are very valuable kind of insights. So there's a question here in the studio. I will bring it. So the question is, so the deployment
No.
of this template, is it through Arc templates or how they can do that? Yeah,
I'm sorry, there is at the moment no template for both scenarios, but it's under development. As far as I know, there was an announcement from Microsoft, and they are working hard on a complete solution. But in this case, it will be not a cheap demo environment.
okay. Thank you for notifying that. Another question came from uh Olawale. He also asked for the link to deploy Azure
Yeah,
Stack HCI. Is it the one this Azure? Yeah. So can you just put that in the link I will share with the people, with the all the people who joined our session. Yeah, you can put in the chat or
this is
so
a
you.
step
Hmm.
by.
Yeah, I'm
Can
going
you
to
see the
put
link?
that there. Yes, yes, I see. So there are like two different chats. I will put that into the chat. And this is the link for what? It's for Azure Stack HCI deployment, correct? Stack
Yes, if you
HCI.
want to create your own demo environment
Hmm.
without needing Azure as your cloud, you
Yes.
can deploy Azure Stack HCI on Hyper-V, and so you don't have to pay for
Hmm.
the VMs.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Great. I deployed that link, and it's also displayed here on our, on our session, so you can see. And this is for the scenario where you want to deploy, as Tom mentioned. This is for scenario when you want to deploy your Azure Stack HCI in non-Azure environment. Let's say you already have your hardware, you are running there, and but does this deployment require actually the cluster cluster infrastructure in your server?
No, I have a normal tower desktop
Hmm.
in my demo environment, and
Okay.
it depends on the PowerShell script how you set it. But you can say, okay, create a single node cluster environment, create a dual node cluster environment,
Hmm.
um, as you want. Yeah,
Okay.
but you have to have in mind. If you want to do some Kubernetes stuff, you need a very powerful machine. But
Machine. Yeah.
the requirements will be listed in the blog post here.
Okay. Great. So yeah, please check this site. You'll get the information. So there's another question as well. I will bring in a few seconds. It's asking that maybe Azure Bicep, another way how you can deploy resources in Microsoft Azure, has has resources for Azure Stack HCI to deploy. And I'm actually checking that, and I don't think there
Um,
is actually a
the
way how you
templates
can do
are
it.
available.
Yeah, I'm going to share that
The
template
templates are
here.
available.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
The templates are available in these different formats. If you are if you want to use the Azure Arc box, you will find it here. Yeah.
I found like on the Microsoft Learn side, I just found this, and I'm sharing that link here in the studio. There is actually a very simplistic, and here's the link, bicep template for Azure Stack HCI. There's also, I believe, ARM template, but it's a bare bone, meaning that for a complete solution, I believe there's still some work needs to be done. But if it's a bare bone template that you want to have in place, this is the one that we currently have on Microsoft Learn site. It's just shared on the screen. Okay. All right. Again, thank you everyone for joining and bringing these questions. And Tom actually, covered all the things that he had in mind to present, and he ran a few demos. And as usually, when you go visit demos, sometimes they work, sometimes there are some issues, but at least the good thing is that we got here all the resources to make sure that you can explore this on your own. You also have this Azure Arc Jumpstart GitHub page, which has. So, do you remember, Tom, for how long we had this Azure Arc Jumpstart? I believe it's more than a year, right?
Yes.
So, and because there's like a lark, what was the person was running that? I forgot his name, but
Ah.
you remember? Is he
Yeah.
also from
Yeah.
Austria or
No. It's not from Austria. He is not from Austria.
he's from
Uh,
Europe though, right?
yes.
Yes, yes. So yeah,
Thomas
Lars.
Maurer.
Thomas Maurer, yeah, is one
Yeah.
of them. He's a Microsoft employee, and there was like I forgot the name, Lars somebody or Lark somebody. Anyway, that's not the important part, but yeah, Thomas Maurer is involved into that. In terms of learning more about that, Tom, more about Azure Arc Jumpstart and hybrid converged infrastructure, what are the good learning resources that you may recommend to the, to everybody who is listening and watching this session? Any suggestions there?
Um, I have done the hybrid certification
Mm-hmm.
AC 100 and AC 101,
Mm-hmm.
and this will cover the whole topic here. And I think the Windows Learn has evolved a lot, and um, you will have also the possibility to use Udemy. There
Mm-hmm.
are also very good um, uh, courses there,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want to have a good preparation for the church itself, I also use WizLab because it gives you some kind of feeling how the question will come up, and yeah.
Yes, yes. So I just kind of back to you, Tom, in terms of learning resources. There's like this Azure Stack HCI Foundation on Microsoft Learn that you can, start learning from there right away. There are introduction to Azure Stack. There's Azure Stack HCI core technologies and all the beautiful things. In addition to that, Martin actually, thank you, Martin, for joining. He actually said that that person name is Liar Kamrat, right? That's the Liar or Lore Kamrat. Does
Mhm.
yeah? So probably that because I saw a couple of posts that he was making around hybrid infrastructure, Azure Stack HCI, and convergence. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Martin, for bringing that name so it clarified everybody. So Thomas Maurer, and that's the person which we were trying to kind of come up, remember, and bring the name here to the studio. All right. Thank you again, everyone, for watching and bringing your feedback in terms of comments and questions. Any last minute things, Tom, you want to speak about where people should, follow you, where they should go in order to find more about Airstack HCI? Can you bring that slide again?
I can show you my personal blog here,
Sure, go ahead, please.
and one of the most topics here is Azure Stack HCI regarded connected. So, um, for example, how to set up the storage for Azure Stack HCI in the correct way, and how to connect to Azure Monitor, or how to set up an AKS infrastructure, and deploying some demo application on your Kubernetes cluster, and one project that it was a recommendation from Thomas Maurer, was to set up SSH connection over Azure Arc. So you don't need to have a VPN connection, uh, and you can connect to your Arc enabled server over SSH
Yeah,
over
that's
the
all
web.
great. That's all great. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that. So, do you want to put that link in the comments so I can share it back with everybody who is watching our session at the moment? Okay, thank you. I see it. Let me share this back with everybody. Link to the blog. Okay, here's a link to the blog, and I will display that on the here on the session, so it's big and visible to everyone. And again, thank you everyone for joining this session. If you have any last minute questions, this is the time to bring it, and we will be happy to address that. Um, and let's give like 5 more seconds here. If there's any questions, we will address them and conclude our session of the day. Okay. All right. Okay, I don't see any questions at the moment in the chat. Thank you, Tom, for engaging presentation and all the links and resources. It was definitely very valuable, and I got this message from John. thanking for presentation. It was very useful. So thank you, John, for your feedback. And till our next session, which is going to happen next Wednesday, please check the link. It's going to be about, let me double check it. It's going to be about, um, our next session is going to be about from chaos to optimum with Azure Chaos Studio. That's going to be the next session. So please register. The links are in the chat and see you there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you on our next session. Bye.
Bye.